Hi friends, welcome to Judgement Day plus 51. Yesterday we had a nice anniversary. Not talking that much about it was not nice, but it is an anniversary. A remembrance of our Marshal Tito, great guy. Neka mu je večna slava I hvala, as we would say in Serbian. 51, Judgment Day, sunny day in Belgrade, nice weather, no wind, which I will use personally to play some badminton outside. But before that, I was reading yesterday late in the night, actually around midnight, what has happened on today's day, and apparently today's day was quite interesting throughout the history. For instance, I don't know if you knew, but the Napoleon Bonaparte has died on today's date, 1821, if I'm not mistaken. But there were at least two philosophers very important to me that were born on today's date. One is the greatest philosopher of all times, according to my humble opinion. It's Karl Marx. And the other is one of the most interesting. It's Søren Kierkegaard from Scandinavia, from Denmark. Back at the times at the era of great philosophers, 19th century. Most of them were practically coming from Germany, so this one was a bit an exception. So he came from Denmark. I liked his theories when I was studying, so to say, philosophy at my high school. But as I said, and one great writer, Henrik Sienkiewicz, was born also on today's date. I still remember some of his books when I was at high school. I was eagerly reading about the Polish-Swedish wars and similar books about various pans that were fighting against the Swedes. Schwede. But let's go back to... okay, first of all, let's spend a few minutes about the latest COVID statistics. It's getting better and better. At least 4 new deaths in Serbia yesterday, so the total death toll is 197. That's not a good news, but the good news is that we had less than 100 new cases since, last time it was less than 100, who knows when it was, a long time ago anyhow. So 93 if I'm not mistaken, or 92, so the total number of infected persons is now slightly over 9,500. We have tested more than 100,000, 105,000 if I'm not mistaken. There is quite a significant number of recovered patients, but also one good parameter is that the number of people on respirators is now much lower. It's half of the number that, less than half of the number than it used to be at the peak. So it's around 50 something, which is a very good sign, according to my opinion. But let's go back to Karl Marx, according to my opinion, the greatest philosopher of all times. I did not read his books. I was only reading what was written in, I mean, the quotations of his books in the book called Political Economy at the first year of my studies at the Faculty of Economy in Belgrade. This was the first exam that I passed. I remember, let's switch to some music because the radio is again Kemal Montano. Okay, let's vraćam se tu. There was a guy, because the Capital was one of the most quoted, most quoted book source practically for this book, Political Economy, which was quite a thick book, I would say, one of the most difficult exams at the first year of the studies. And there was a guy, I mean a friend of mine, who was studying in the good old-fashioned way. So he took the book of Political Economy, went to the library, he took the Capital, Karl Marx book, and then whenever there was a quotation of Capital, he was practically turning to the Capital book and then reading practically not only this quotation, but I mean a bit wider text about related to this quotation. So this is practically the old-fashioned and the proper way of studying. I mean, we were laughing to this guy back then, because back then the purpose was just to pass the exam and go on. But he did not understand it that way, and afterwards he had quite a nice career, I have to say. He's originally from Bosnia, Livno, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, interesting. So I'm now firm that I will be also taking the original book of Capital and reading it, because I believe the only philosopher that gave the totally encircled philosophical theory was Karl Marx. All the others, I mean, respect to all of them, the great thinkers, but none of the others, according to my opinion, has given really fully encompassed and circled theory. Most of them were trying to explain the world and everything in the world by just using one supernatural phenomenon or force or whatever, like Nietzsche or the others. Kant, Sigmund Freud. Okay, yeah, he was more therapist. But Karl Marx, really, whatever he was, I mean, I'm now going back to some quotations of his books, and quite often I remember one, which is, it is inevitable that from the quantity the new quality will be born. And it is really so true, that you cannot, I mean, I witness this theory in my everyday life. So in Serbian translation is iz kvantiteta se neumitno rađa novi kvalitet. Yeah, so very true. Many other, but I also remember when I was reading these quotations that, and they were plentiful, it really left an impression of common sense. The other philosophers were, I would say, rather writing, how to say, books that will be interesting for reading, that they knew that what they are writing will be interesting for someone to read, and that many people will love these theories of one supernatural force that is practically how to say, managing the universe. But no, Karl Marx was not writing because his main idea was to be liked by the readers. As far as I can tell, he was well situated from a relatively rich family, from quite rich family, so his main motive was not to earn money out of his writings, but rather to really provide a theory that will be explaining pretty much everything what is to be explained, and that will be based on the common sense. And exactly this is what he did. Of course, many people will now say that I'm comunera and the old communist, etc. I cannot be communist because I barely lived in these times of the Communist Party. I was never. When I was growing up, this was practically closing to its end in ex-Yugoslavia. So I really never felt. When I was of age, 18, the first parliamentary elections practically started in Serbia after the Second World War. So, okay, these elections, this was ridiculous, of course. But in general, yeah, one cannot say that I have witnessed some of the communism, but his theory was actually that the communism will not, it is inevitable that the society will be practically getting to the phase of the communism, but the communism will not come first in the countries such as Russia, so that they are jumping from the feudal society straight into communism. There's no way to do it. The communism will first appear in the best developed countries, in the most developed countries. So what we are witnessing now in Scandinavia nowadays, this is communism essentially. This is the welfare state. It is not called communism, but in essence it is. Yeah. Okay, yeah. That much for now. I will be telling you more about this theory later on. Bye for now.